Great. All right. Shut the door, please. Okay. Well, it's 7 o'clock, 7:01. I know people kind of pull in a little bit late on these things, but we'll go ahead and just get started with some basic stuff. Thank you all for joining. I just wanted to ask a few questions as to what everybody's wanting to get out of this and set some ground rules. So we have Charissa and Todd with us. They are the ones who run Zero Vacancy Property Management, and they're our friends, and we send them all of our business, and they have helped us personally. They're wonderful, and they're going to talk more about themselves here shortly. And we have a lot to go through, and we don't want to overwhelm or underwhelm, but we're gonna go through a lot of material today, and we want to welcome questions as they come. So I'm gonna have a chat bar open. You guys can just chat through there, raise your hand, and we'll stop and pause and we'll answer questions. We want this to be interactive. And then also at the end, we will have some more time for question and answer. But I wanted to go quickly, if you guys wouldn't mind, just letting us know what you're wanting to get out of this webinar. So I want to start with Anne, if you wouldn't mind sharing us what's something you're looking to get out of this, so we can make sure we address that.
Well, I get people ask all the time, they think they can get into a rental property with the same kind of down payment they buy a home. And I know I don't believe that's true. I believe the interest rate is higher than if it's your home. I think one of the big things I'm really interested in right now is the risk factor, especially now with what's going on with tenants not paying or not paying utilities. I've got that behind me. I've got tenants behind me. We have a 4-house well. The well payment is not being made. I don't know that we'll ever see it.
So we are going to be discussing all of those, and we have a special section on COVID risk and things like that.
Cool. All right.
David, what about you?
Well, Emily, I used to have rental properties over a decade ago.
This I know. You guys know David. David was introduced to me when I was 24, and he had many properties, and we were involved in a group together. And I was like this 24-year-old, and I was following David and Miriam around to these properties, and we were in the same group, and we've stayed connected ever since and done real estate deals together. So it's so fun that you're here. So yes, you have a history and knowledge already. So that's why I'm kind of like, oh, yeah.
I just wonder how that maybe has changed from the last time I was in it. You know, is real estate investing, or having rental properties still a good investment for the long term? And a brief history to Todd and is it Charissa? My father owned rentals for over 30 years, just to give you some history of where I came from. I started painting apartments when I was 10 years old in my dad's places. But so I'm looking to see if that's something that I still want to do with rental properties, and then making sure that I have professional management to keep them positive cash flow.
Okay. Great. We are going to discuss we're going to go over some examples with that, and we're going to touch on that for sure. Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you, David. Jackie?
Well, I owned a rental condo and sold it. It just wasn't a good environment. And so I have had my toes in the water, and I would like to consider doing it again to add to our retirement. So yeah, I'm excited to learn.
So you're excited, you're thinking about doing it again, and this is a little like encouragement, right?
Yes.
And education.
Yes.
Okay, Ashley, and then I think that's it. Ashley?
Yes, sorry, I think I had missed the question. I was a couple minutes late.
Oh yeah, sorry. What are you wanting to get out of this? So we make sure to address it.
Oh, really just learning like the benefits of it and any like tips or tricks or anything for like first time people getting into investment. I owned a home in Chicago for 3 years and then I sold it. So I don't have anything. So it'd be something new. So just anything for like new beginners to get into.
Okay, and Ashley is an agent on our team. She is, she joined us this year and she is awesome. We love having her. And Jackie is also, she is operations director on our team. And Anne was, she and her, she's widowed now, but her husband and her did kind of our designated broker at Keller Williams many years ago. And they were mentors to myself and Travis. Well, Travis was just joining the business. So I'm loving this group, you guys. We're gonna have a great time. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, let me just make sure I can see Charissa on here. Okay, so we're gonna get started here and talk about Charissa and Todd. So tell us about yourselves and why you guys are experts, because you are.
Oh, thank you for calling us experts. We're just like in our mid-30s trying to figure out this whole real estate investing thing. I think we have come up with a lot of really good strategies by a lot of, I don't know, good things and failures at the same time. But yeah, just know that as we're talking, and hi everybody, nice to meet you. I'm obviously Charissa, that's Todd.
Hey guys.
We're just wanting this to be like just kind of a social experience where there's not a lot of pressure and you guys can ask any question anytime. And we just want, you know, we didn't put together this beautiful, perfect, like polished presentation. We want this to be interactive, and we're hoping that, you know, if you guys get just one thing out of this, that it will be worth your time. That's kind of what my goal is every time I go into a session like this. It's like, if I spend 1 hour and I get one thing, that is totally worth my time. So thank you guys for being here. And thank you, Emily and Travis too, for inviting us to be a part of this.
He's watching the kids. Oh, I do want to mention, they just have one little girl. She's 5. And if they got to run off one of them at a time, it's because they need to attend to her. They don't have anybody watching. She's like loose in the house. I have Travis on the kids, but it could get loud at times. We all have little ones.
Yeah,
so,
hashtag real life.
Yeah, and it's real life. It's real life right now. So Todd and Charissa, Charissa started her experience. I mean, you started real estate very similar to me years ago. Tell us about that and what you did and how you broke away and built this, what you have now.
So I started in 2006. So I've been in real estate for about 14 years. Todd and I got married in 2012, at the very end of 2012. And we decided, like, our honeymoon, instead of having a honeymoon, we would save the money instead and buy our first rental property. So we decided to buy our first property in 2013. And between then and last year, we have acquired 10 properties. And besides that, we own 10 properties ourselves, and we own a property management company as well. And we manage over 400 properties. So it's we are very much in the know of what's going on, what the market trends are. And I know that you said that it's important to you to find out what's going on in the market now. And David, you too, I know that you're wondering how things are back then versus now. And Ashley, you also said that you're wondering, you know, is this the right time to get back in the game or not? So yeah, a lot about us is, you know, we saved for a very long time. Kind of our secret to success was moving every year and saving. So we saved every penny that we earned. And we just put it all into real estate, one deal at a time. And we moved and moved and moved and moved so we could get better terms, which Todd's going to talk about. You know, as you buy an investment property, you have to put 25% down. But for us, if you have, if you choose to move every year, then you get the opportunity to be an owner occupant. And with an owner occupancy, you're able to buy a lot of properties very quickly if you choose to move several times, but that is kind of a sacrifice that you have to choose to make.
Yeah, this is before babies too. So
this is before babies, yeah, which we
it's
realistic to some
now.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to uproot and kind of move your whole self everywhere. But ultimately, it's kind of like, what is the rule for you? And when you're looking at properties, for us, we needed to cash flow at least $300 a month to buy a property. And for the 10 properties that we have, we are cash flowing approximately.
At least that now, because obviously each property, the first one was in 2013. So there's been quite a bit of not just appreciation, but also cash flow improvement over the last 7 years. So we'll get into more details about a few of those examples later on. But yeah, it's even if you bought in a high market, which is what we did initially before everything really plummeted, it still has gone up significantly. As most of everyone knows, the market dropped a lot in 2012 and rebounded almost back up to where it was before it dropped just a few years ago. And this can you continue to either stabilize in a lot of areas or continue to explode.
You buy and hold, it's usually good. And then I want people to know that Todd, he is, you're back. Can you just talk about your numbers background?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Todd used to be an accountant at Boeing, and we realized that he was an executive at Boeing, and he's called Mr. Spreadsheets. He is all about numbers. He does all the analysis for all of our properties, trying to figure out if things cash flow, if they don't. There are so many numbers to run, and that's where it gets a little bit complicated, and where it helps to kind of work with a professional, because it's kind of, I don't know, you get used to seeing numbers all the time, and you get used to the lingo and looking at these spreadsheets all the time if you're analyzing deals all the time. So that's kind of Todd's job, and he left Boeing after a long career, and we have him as a part of our property management company now, because we needed an accountant. So ultimately, Todd is now working with our property management company and taking care of all of the analysis with not only our personal rentals and our portfolio personally, but also all of our property management company portfolio as well. So
a lot, and it's
Todd's strong point for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And these guys are a powerhouse couple. So we really enjoy them, and they're a great resource. And so through this, we want to just have people realize that team is important. Using a team like them, it's really key to being successful in owning real estate and having passive income through rental properties. So just a couple of things. Most of you guys already know this, but how many millionaires do you know that have become wealthy by investing in savings account alone? I rest my case, says Robert Allen. And then 90% of all millionaires come so through owning real estate, Andrew Carnegie. And so it's always there. People need places to live. The average net worth of a renter, and this is 3 years ago, this is data from 17, by the way, was $5,200, which is really sad. And then net worth of average homeowner is $238,000. This is across the nation. And it's like, well, how does that happen? How do they get that net worth, And then just break this down real quick, because I'm going to expand it for owning multiple properties here. So obviously you guys know the benefits of owning real estate. Number one is appreciation. Every year on average for the past, 30 or 40 years, the average appreciation has gone between, I think it's actually more than that. I'm sorry. I think it's 70 years, between 3 and 4%. And so we've had good years where we got 10, and we had bad years we had negative. But like, if you take a home at 400,000, and you look at 4% appreciation, in 1 year alone, you've gained $16,000 in appreciation. Of course, you can't touch it right now, but it's there. So there's that. Appreciation is one penny. The other one is tax savings, right? You have a $400,000 home. The monthly interest on that is, let's say it's $1,200. In 12 months, you're paying $14,400 to live there, but you can write that off. And so if you're in a tax bracket of 30%, your tax will be reduced by $4,300 roughly. So that's another savings. And you don't have to pay Uncle Sam as much because you own a home. And then the other one is the debt reduction. You know, again, if you take a $400,000 house, the mortgage is $2,200. Your principal every month is maybe $600 and some change. After 12 months, that's $74. You just do the math. $16,000 plus the $4,000 you didn't pay Uncle Sam, the $7,000 that you made in principal that you paid down, essentially paying off the debt. That's $27,000 in year one. You do that you do that for 10 years on just one home. It's way more than 27,000. Oh, sorry, the typo, guys. 270,000 to 270,000, not that. And actually it's more than that because I didn't account for appreciation for 10 years. That's just the normal appreciation, but you could have years it's more. So take this example and then talk about for multiple homes. This is a lot to look at, and Chris and I talked about not using this spreadsheet, but unfortunately I had to use it. So you take that example on one house, and let's look at this here for like multiple homes. Just take your first home here. You buy a home for $300,000 down payment. You just use the 5%, and then annual interest rate is 4.7, which is high right now actually, but very doable. And let's say the rent for that home is $1,950. We're going to go through an example today that shows where that actually is happening right now in the market. And so you live in the home the first year, but then you move out, okay, and you rent the home. And so after 5 years, this is showing you, this is a 5-year plan. So every 5 years, buying a new home, okay? So the income received from passive income is that this dollar amount. The market value of the home has raised by, $70,000. The unpaid principal balance has been paid down by $25,000. The cumulative net worth of that is $149,000. And you're talking about holding this for 30 years and having it paid all the way off. Is that one property is basically net worthing $1.2 million. And I've run the numbers. I know Chris and Todd have run this over and almost every one property by itself is it's almost equivalent to $1 to $2 million. And if you were to save up the cash of trying to save up to, you have to save up $2 million in retirement to get paid the same amount you would get paid on owning one property that was giving you passive income. In fact, I'm going to show that to you just real quick here. So then you do that again. I'm going to show it to you. I have a thing here. So there's, to save money for retirement, Chris and Todd have been all about this, but right here, this is I don't even know if you can you see this?
Let me put it on speaker view.
Hold on. Right here, one rental. This is desired annual retirement income is in this column. And it starts at 10,000, 10, 20, 30, 40. Over here is the total needed for retirement. And that starts at 250,000 to 750,000 to $1 million. And like right here, I run the numbers. So one rental could pay a person 30 to 40,000 in passive income a year, and that is essentially equal to $750 to $1 million in retirement. And this example right here backs that up alone, showing you the $1 million right here is the net worth of it. And this is basically saying the same thing. So this is a tool, right, for retirement. That's why people do this. And you could save the cash up of, you know, however much cash you would need. You don't need to save $1 million. You probably need to save what, like several $100,000, then use the market to kind of build it up. But I mean, you're talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars at least, where in this case, you just put, you know, $15,000, $20,000 down, and then you let it ride for 30 years. Okay. And so that is the example. And then like you do it again every 5 years. So then we're talking about, this is just, if you walk, it's just moving down. Here we go. Okay. And this last house right here is their dream home here. So the 730,000. But again, I'm not going to be moving every, I'm not going to be moving and doing this. You know, Ashley, you could do this. Jackie, you could, no, Jackie just buying a house. David and Ann, you know, everybody's look at their situation, but this right here is just, it just speaks volumes by looking at these numbers. Home 2, you know, another million. Each one is basically giving you about $1 million in net worth at the end of the 30-year ride. And the rental cash flow coming in, you just look at 2 homes coming in, you know, that's $50,000. The rent on this one is $24,000, and they're getting $50,000 a year. So it could pay somebody's retirement. I don't want to go, do you have anything else to say to this, Charissa or Todd? You want to, or?
This is, yeah, I agree. This is kind of overwhelming.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot of numbers, and it's actually very, very accurate and very well put here on the whole spreadsheet. So it might take a little bit of time. I'm not sure if you're open to sharing this with everybody, so it can sink in a little bit more, and you can go line item by line item and kind of get a better grasp of cumulative growth over time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
at the very bottom. Oh, sorry. What'd you say, Charissa?
Oh, I was saying this is a fantastic spreadsheet.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what just happened there. There we go. At the end, you look at the 5 years. Oh, get away. I don't want to see this net worth. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. Sorry. Okay, then I'm trying to get this bar out. It's like net worth of the 5 homes in 30 years is, right, as you can see the totals here at the bottom. My thing keeps popping up, but 345,000 in 5 years. If you started in 2018, 1.9 million. So anyways, it adds it all up. Do you guys have any questions about this spreadsheet at all? Okay, I guess I can't see everybody. Just speak up if you do, I guess. Okay, great. So real estate is a secure investment because it is, you're basically buying land, and land is earth. So that's not going away. But that's one. And then 2, the other way is to invest in stocks, right? To build your wealth, which go up and down, and they're just another bucket to use. And the third is investing in businesses, which is the most riskiest to do, but it can actually make you the most money besides real estate. So, okay, I'm going to have Chris and Todd talk about the misconceptions of being a landlord and renting properties, but I just want to have you guys see the numbers on this, because this is, you know, this is numbers in the spreadsheet, but the math works and the math adds up. Okay. Basically, it's a good investment, right? Buy and hold it. Okay. So let's talk about some misconceptions, Chris and Todd. I don't want to do this. It's too risky. Shouldn't I wait for a low market before I do this? Like when we had in 2008 and 9, should I just wait till then? Because it's too high now, right?
Yep, we get these questions just as often as you do.
You get it on the buying side and the selling side in some cases, and we get it on the rental side.
So to add what you were saying about it being a secure investment, I know that David, you're wondering what the market kind of looks like right now. You too, actually. And I would say that real estate investing is still predictable. The market is still super strong. And Anne, I know that you're concerned about COVID and how COVID is affecting the rental market. And surprisingly, buying properties is more popular and the market is still super high even right now because we have such limited options as far as property management goes. So people have two options to leave their home. Number one, to occupy the property, which is not very realistic, especially if it was always meant to be a rental or has been for years. And number two, to put it on the market and sell it. So that's why the sales market especially has stayed super strong, because landlords right now are really under, how do you say that nicely? There's no real nice way to sugarcoat it. We're like really strapped for what we're able to do. And we're definitely going to be talking about COVID and what the risks are for that. But thankfully, there are ways to get around the stipulations that we are put under right now. And I think we can add a lot of insight, but we still stand firm that investing in real estate is definitely less risky than investing in stocks that can always be like a roller coaster at a whim's notice. And it's definitely better than owning a business. You said it perfectly right, Emily. It's super risky, even though it's rewarding, but you still are waiting for customers to either walk in your door or buy something online for you, and you hope that they're repeat customers. It's a lot less predictable than having like a 2-3 year contract with a tenant, regardless of whether it's enforceable at the moment. It's still less risky than investing in something else or putting your money elsewhere. So I guess I'll hand it over to you about misconceptions about investing in real estate and how it's applicable right now, because things have changed.
Yeah, the current environment that we're in right now, legally speaking, like Charissa said, is really challenging. We're really strapped to do pretty much any lease enforcement right now. And the way that we've been able to circumvent that is initially with our tenant screening and our requirements. And so that's where, as an investor, if you want to be hands-on, which is a lot of questions that we get, it can be risky to do that yourself, especially if you're working a full-time job in the meantime, but you can do it if you are willing to put in the time and effort. If you don't want to hire a professional who puts in time and effort in doing that as a profession, then you need to be willing to step up and take their place. And the landlords that are in trouble, more often than not, are in trouble because they haven't done as much as they could have done, or they've allowed themselves to fall behind. So you can offset that risk by looking into the laws and doing really good tenant screening. No tenant screening is 100% for sure, but if you have certain criteria, you can get a whole different tenant base. And so that's where we've really been able to personally and professionally offset a lot of that tenant risk, where a lot of people are having tenants who can't pay their rent. It's because I would say, well, to not split hairs, it's the profession that your tenants are in. If you have a lower end rental, you get tenants who have minimum wage type jobs, or jobs that are heavily customer service or restaurant oriented or something along those lines, where it's been shut down and so they're unemployed now. And a lot of our tenants are on the higher end of that spectrum, just by chance and direction in some instances. And so those are the ones who are telecommuting. And even though their work has been shut down, they're still able to continue to work from home virtually. And so that's a huge way to offset your risk there. And then I see there's the next item there is pet issues.
Emily has something to say.
Emily's going to do that one? Okay, go ahead.
No, I have a question. I was going to say, so with that, so legally speaking, when you get an application, you put a home for rent and you get an application that comes in, you're allowed to do background checks. And I know when it's like your first rental, I know Anne's into law too. So, and I've done the law on this, but it's been a while. When you do your first rental, you can't discriminate for anything. So, being aware of like what is, if you get a tenant that's in, I mean, can you as a landlord, it's a question, say, listen, I'm not taking anybody that has a credit score under 720 because you can set that, right? As a landlord.
You can currently.
Okay. So yeah, I can't discriminate on a lot of other things, and that's against the law, but the one thing that you can, because it is the credit score, and you can discriminate on the type of job they have. So that would be discriminatory, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sure.
you have that absolutely right. And a lot of times the people who have 750 credit scores, they're not the people that are renting. They're the people that are buying. So we really have to remind owners sometimes that, if you want to put something on the market and your stipulation to accept a renter is somebody that has a 750 or a 700 plus or an 800 plus credit score, it's just really, it's asking too much. It's not something that's realistic.
Okay. What do you guys see as realistic? Because I do know you guys have a good portfolio. So
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, how do you, I know the ones you guys helped us get the renters in. I don't remember what their credit score was, but I wasn't really worried about it because of
It's
other
amazing.
situations. But how do you, what do you typically see? What do you recommend? What's out there? Because I know that people who do rent typically do not have the best credit.
So I would say that this is city related, and I don't want to say it really harsh like that, but reality is that, people in certain zip codes are going to be making more money. Like the people who live in Bellevue, Redmond, Sammamish, Issaquah, Kirkland, they are going to be making more money and they can afford to live in that area. Usually our rental criteria is that they have to make, so I'll say this first, actually, to answer your question. I think this is the biggest way to eliminate risk. And I think this is where a majority of landlords really screw this up. People who are managing their own properties, it's not properly screening their tenants. And a lot of times, number one, people don't even know where to go to screen their tenants if they don't have like a property management software or a proper screening, some type of software or a website or something that they go through. They also don't get like pay stubs and like actual documentation, and they don't call the landlord and they don't call the employer. For us, we make sure that the tenant, before we even show the property, we make sure that they make 3 times the rent amount. They have good credit, and sometimes credit-wise, people are more, it really depends on the owner, to be really frank with you.
Okay.
A lot of people understand that renters are going to pay the roof over their head before they pay for their car bill or their Macy's bill or whatever it is. And sometimes it's student debt, it's medical debt, things like that. So it really depends on the owner if they're willing to be more flexible with credit. For us, if we have somebody that has a really poor credit score, we obviously are looking to see if it's old debt, if it's new debt, have they had any late payments in the entire year, like are trying to fix their credit situation. So that I would say is flexible, but we always get like a larger down payment if their credit is really terrible. So good credit, good landlord references. And like I said, we literally get on the phone and we like talk to them. We Google the number to make sure that it's not their brother or their dad or their mom or something like that.
That's so important.
This can be David, you probably know. So, people can be fishy. So we make sure to do all of our due diligence on the back end to make sure that people aren't being funky. Make sure they have no bankruptcies, no open bankruptcies for sure. And if they have had a previous bankruptcy in the last 7 years, is it a chapter 13? Is it a chapter 7? Are they currently making payments? Is it completely wiped out? Is this going to be something that we have to worry about debt-wise for them, where they would choose to make that payment over paying their rent payment.
You guys go down into it. I love it.
Oh, we go insane. I know that I think this is probably the number one thing that we share with owners where a mistake is made, and the mistake is not screening properly. So this is something that we go like really in depth with, and obviously no evictions, no bankruptcies, no felonies, no misdemeanors. If it is a felony or a DUI from like how many years ago, we'll make an exception, something like that. But I would say one of the biggest ways to avoid risk altogether is just screening really properly and doing a really good job at it. And not just taking whatever is on the application for what it's worth or whatever story they told you when you met with them, something like that. I think that would really save so many people so much heartache, because that's really where the risk lies. If we can be honest, that's the number one reason people fail in real estate and managing their own properties is the tenant screening.
That's great. And like, I know with our situation, these guys, we paid these guys to, even though I'm a licensed realtor and I don't need them to write a contract for me, to write a lease, I can do that. I know how valuable they are and what they do. It's their realm. I do the real, I'm in real estate side. This is their realm. It's the same thing. It's real estate, but it's totally different. And so we paid them to just lease our property for us and do that portion of it. And with our renter, they came back, and one of the things, the tools you guys analyze is like my payment required to the rental payment required, that tenant was making X amount above that. And that's something you guys look at, right? Is that one of the things?
Yep.
Like, okay, so if it's like $2,000 a month, the rent is, do you want to see them making 3 times that, 2.5 times it?
3 times the rent amount.
Okay.
In the Seattle area, like I said, this is kind of city-based.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're buying a property that is in an interesting location, you have to understand what your tenant base is going to be. But majority of areas where it's going to be predictable, which we can help with how predictable it's going to be, and you guys can always lean on us and Emily and Travis for locations, because this is our profession. This is what we do every single day. We know like the crime rate, we know what the rents are going to look like, we know the value. So just knowing what type of tenant base that you're working with, 3 times the rent amount is not too much to ask for.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
If I was like in Tacoma, like South Tacoma, like southeast or west Tacoma, I'm talking like 50th and Sheridan, something like that. If I was down there, would that still apply? Or do you guys, is that an area that is that an area considered like you would say, oh yeah, 3 times the rent? Or is that different?
We give breaks. Yeah, we definitely give breaks. It really depends on the location. And we know what the tenant base is going to be based on the address, the crime rate. You just have to, and that's obviously we won't send our leasing agents there, and we won't sign up to manage properties that are really high crime rate, because we aren't willing to put ourselves or our company or our agents in any type of harm. And you have to be very careful when it comes to like the crime rate in an area. And I know Emily, you and Travis like really pay attention to where people are buying. But yeah, we will be flexible sometimes, knowing that that's kind of our tenant base and they are not going to make that certain amount, like 3 times the rent amount. That might be a little bit too much to ask for. But those are larger apartment buildings, I'd say, like 8 to 10 to 20 units.
That's when you start to see the 3 times the rent drop down, is those apartment complexes.
Yep, but we never go underneath like 2.5%. So I'd say that is a standard. And if it is underneath that, we will either have them prepay their rent for a particular amount of time, or give a bigger deposit, or get a co-signer that will also pay a bigger deposit. So there's a lot of things that you can do to really protect yourself in that way.
I got a lot of questions, didn't I?
Yeah, that was a good question.
The only other thing I was going to add, I can't tell you guys enough times how many times we've taken over management for a property and inherited a 2 or 3 page lease. And they either didn't collect a security deposit at all, or it's like $300. Our security deposits are always equal to 1 month's rent, no matter who it is or where it is. And if the credit score is lower or their income is lower, then we collect an additional security deposit of some amount.
Yep.
And that's pretty much more or less standard.
Yeah, we're not supposed to say standard, but
Well, standard
it
for
is
us,
pretty
yeah.
standard. And you'll see it in ads too. If you go look at other places that are for rent, you'll see that that is kind of an industry standard, is that it's 1 times the rent amount.
Mhm.
Which is wonderful that it's being more normalized.
Let's see, what else do we have on there? Nightmare tenants. Oof.
I think I cut you off, guys, on pet issues with some questions. I don't know if you got over pet issues
Oh.
yet. Mhm.
Oh, that's okay.
I think Anne had a question though that I saw come up.
Oh,
Sorry, not to interrupt.
no, thank you. I'm not. Let me ask to unmute her.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Yeah.
Okay, when you're talking 3 times the rent, are you talking their gross income or their take-home pay?
Gross, always.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mhm.
And like I said, we always get pay stubs that show documentation of that. And second, we call their employer, hoping that it's their employer. Like I said, we do some research on the phone number that we're even calling before we call, and make sure that it's legit or a company line. We ask for the supervisor of this particular person so they know exactly their work habits. And we make sure that it's not like a part-time or temporary or seasonal job. We make sure that it's full-time. We ask about their work habits. And these are all things that we're allowed to ask. So we definitely do a thorough screening on that and say, you know, do they show up on time? Do you plan on keeping them around? Do they follow through with all of their obligations and everything that is their projects at work? Pretty much our question is, do you plan on keeping them around, and knowing that we are trying to rent to them, will they be able to pay their rent? And they will always give, well, majority of, I would say, we try to be hopeful that people give honest answers, but you always take things with a grain of salt. That's why we kind of do 1, 2, 3 layers of kind of the background check.
So that was just as gross pay.
Gross.
Okay. I'm going to reply in the chat. Okay, great. Okay, pet issues. Okay. Misconceptions on pet issues.
Go ahead. So okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You can do it.
Okay,
You
so
got it.
a lot of misconception is that, well, first off, the riskiness, just to leave that topic, I think a lot of people see a lot of risk when they, like Todd said, when there's like a 2 or 3 page agreement and they don't really have something solid. And for us, I think we have a 27 page agreement and we have our attorneys look at it several times per year. It is very owner-sided, to be honest. It really covers an owner to make sure that every single addendum, every single bit of risk is really covered. And that's like a fire addendum, a pet addendum, a lead-based paint addendum, depending on what year the property is built. There are so many addendums just to make sure that an owner is covered. And we can share those examples with you guys, totally not a problem. As far as pet issues, the biggest thing that we have found that we request of people that they are willing to do is to get pet references. And I know this is kind of unorthodox to ask, is if they will provide pet references, but sometimes we will ask for like a dog walker or a pet sitter or a vet or something like that, somebody to provide something in writing, and we will call them as well and make sure that this is legit, something that they put together, and make sure that there's a phone number or an email or something where we can validate the letter. But we will get those things in writing we usually require 2 different types of pet references is what we call them. And at
Wow.
the same time, we not only collect a deposit, we do not charge pet rent, and I don't agree with that. I know a lot of property managers do, but we honestly don't agree with that. We make them sign a really solid pet addendum, and it pretty much says they can't be a barking nuisance, they can't screw up the floors, they can't, they have to clip their nails. Like, there's so many things that you can add into an addendum that will cover your liability and your risk when it comes to allowing pets. Because a lot of people will just say, no, we really, like, whatever we do, we don't want to have pets, no pets at all. And what our response is, knowing the tenants that we have, is, you know, a lot of families, even if they don't have children, they will have pets. And even if they do have children, they will have pets. So when you put something on the market, you're knocking out like a huge percentage of the people that you are marketing to, and problem. So for pet issues, I'd say those are the biggest things that you could do. And that's one of the biggest like misconceptions when we talk to owners about taking over management of their properties, is accepting pets or not accepting pets. And there's a lot of things, like I said, you can do to eliminate all of the risk on that. COVID-19, I'm gonna let you handle that one. Nightmare tenants, I would say we weed out majority of the nightmare tenants that we have with, like I said, screening. That's the number one thing. Screening will take care of majority of your nightmare tenants, because you just end up with a completely different tenant base. Also, a lot of people sign a 12-month lease, and we always go for a 24 to a 36-month lease, even if even if there's an escalation between the 24-month and the 24th month and the 26th month. So the 3rd year of their lease. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Well, between year 1 and year 2.
No, between year 2 and year 3.
That too, yes.
For the first 2 years, we sign a solid lease with them. And David, I'm not sure if this is something that your tenants ever did. I know a lot of property management companies sign a 12-month lease because they are able to charge a full month lease rate every single time that they, you know, sign a new lease. But we prefer to have long-term tenants. And we'll talk more about that, how to get long-term tenants versus short-term tenants, and what is more of a risk when you're choosing a property to purchase. But as far as signing a long-term lease, that is another way that we avoid a lot of nightmare tenants, is them knowing that we are in a long-term situation with them in a long-term contract, and they are in a long-term contract with us. So I'd say that's one of the things there. And then I think a lot of misconceptions have to do with not having support and not knowing what to do. So for us, a lot of times, even if we have properties that we lease, but we do not manage, kind of like you and Emily, you and Travis. Yeah. We lease the property, but you guys manage it. We are always available at all times to just be there for people who have random questions and just not sure how to handle different situations. Sometimes we'll have to refer them to, you know, like an attorney or something like that, especially if things are getting kind of rough. But we can usually avoid that, and we can be kind of that support system. So we're happy to offer that as well to all of you guys. As far as COVID-19, that's kind of a big subject, and I don't want us to stay here too long. Anybody, if you are wondering about COVID and how it affects the rental market, to put it in a short term, well, I guess if you want to, do you want to address that, or do you want me to give the gist and you can address questions?
Yeah, you can give the gist. Okay,
the gist is we are not able, like I said prior, we're not able to evict people, and we're not able to serve certain types of notices right now. So it's based on the moratorium that has been extended, which it might continue to be. Like I said, if we place somebody into a home where one of the biggest reasons why we make it so, you know, as a criteria for them to make 3 times the rent amount is so that they have reserves if things don't go quite right. And if they lose their job, they can get a new job within 3 months. That's why we make sure that it's, 3 times the rent amount is the criteria. So even if something goes wrong, not only do we keep like awesome relationships with our tenants, they have reserves if things should not go quite right. So thankfully, and knock on wood, where's some wood? We have not had many issues with our tenants not being able to pay rent. And even if they do come down with COVID, they, like I said, they have reserves. So it's part of the screening process. But as far as our other rights regarding COVID, is there something else you want to add into there?
I would just say staying on top of the law as best you can and making sure that you take as many precautions as possible. And even if you can't serve notices, that you serve them a notice that falls within the legal guidelines, where currently it says you can't say or vacate, so you can still give somebody a comply notice. Mm-hmm. And serving those notices puts ammunition, so to speak, on your side. If somebody is continuing to cause issues that you can't evict them for, where normally you'd be able to serve them a notice that complies with the new laws. There's always ways to do as much as you can without crossing a law boundary. And so the biggest thing for a lot of owners is, my tenants aren't paying rent, what can I do? And the moratorium, is spelled out what options are available. Even if you can't evict somebody, if you follow certain procedures, you can still collect the money at some point. And so that's something that is a wonderful tool to at least encourage tenants to pay rent. And that's part of the screening process, where if tenants have good credit scores, they don't want their credit score to get damaged by not paying rent. Mm-hmm. And that they know if they carry out not paying rent through the current end of the moratorium is the end of this month. Oh, sorry, Emily, go ahead.
When you're done, I'll ask. Yeah, when you're done with the rent, yeah.
The biggest thing is just staying on top of it, because there's certain parameters and things that you need to do to collect payment. Initially is to ask them for a payment plan arrangement, and you just have to offer it to them in writing, preferably on paper, posted on their door, and mailed to them. And that's all you have to do as a landlord currently to collect payment. That was a new condition that was added when they extended it from October 15th. Mm-hmm. So there are definitely risks, and we avoid the COVID risk for the screening. And then if you inherit a tenant, which we have inherited tenants, which unfortunately have chosen not to pay rent, we've done all that we can with those owners and those tenants. But thankfully for us, it's a very, very small percentage. So we only have a handful of people impacted that way.
Yeah. So remember talking to you guys about this earlier. So yeah, you can send them a notice saying, okay, provide payment plan to me if you can't make the full provide payment plan. Mm-hmm. And then you say, if you don't do this, I'm going to report. Can't you report to credit bureaus?
Not right now.
Yeah, not at the time.
Okay.
The best thing to do, and I've talked with my team about this several times, knowing that we've been under these moratorium rules since May. It's been quite the year. The best thing to really do is just to put a warm voice on the phone, and it's like magic. People will tell you all about their situation, their job, their family, who's doing what's going on. And really, like, part of tenant retention is just putting a warm voice on the phone and finding out what's going on. And ultimately, thankfully, you can tell them, I'm the landlord, or even, our clients, we do this on behalf of our clients, they're the owners of the property. They can't pay for their mortgage and also the rental, or they're going to have to sell, and they're going to be forced to leave. So it's either pay your rent, or they may have to put the property on the market, which you don't want. So thankfully, we're able to kind of come together on that. And they, like I said, talking to a warm voice on the phone, they understand that somebody has to be paying for that mortgage, and they have to pay rent if they choose not to. It's going to end up really badly for them. So they work with us. And that has to do with constant, you know, taking care of your tenants, keeping in touch with them, instead of texting them all the time, sending them birthday cards, Christmas cards, all of these kinds of things that are tenant retention related.
That's great. You guys do that. I've never heard of that before, ever. It's like what we do, and you guys do too. It's so cool.
I know. That's cool.
Okay. We have a lot to go. There has been 55 minutes, but this was an hour and a half. So it is an hour and a half, but we are gonna. So
Oh yeah, we gotta fly through the rest.
oh my gosh. Okay, Todd, you're gonna talk about getting going on this and what's needed, and then the next slides, I think, are You're talking about building a team to get going.
Am I talking about building a team? Okay. Where's
I
that?
think I don't remember who it was.
Yeah. So we've touched on it a few different times, and I think I opened up when I initially started talking about building a team, and there are some things that you can educate yourself on and do by yourself, but it makes it immensely easier on you if you have a great team behind you. And you know, there's a lot of realtors out there, and there's a lot of property management companies out there, but there are only so many people who actually, you know, truly go to bat for you and really help guide you along the way, and also educate you, and not just say, you know, you need to do this and not explain why. And so having a really good team around you is extremely helpful.
Experienced. Yeah.
Experience speaks volumes. You can find somebody who talks the talk, but can they actually walk the walk?
Yeah,
we all know about that.
Yeah, in purchasing, you know, the 10 properties that we've accumulated, there's a lot of lenders that we've gone through, agents, and a lot of learning that we've had to do. And I've learned lending, I would like to say self-proclaimed A to Z. There's always something new that you learn. You're never truly fully the expert. And the more you know, the more you realize that you are not always the expert, but you want to find the best team that you can. And Emily and Travis are awesome agents, and they really do have your best interests in mind, and they want to, they'll treat you like they treat themselves. And that's ultimately the types of people that you want to find. And they'll work day and night for you. And so getting qualified people is important, and making sure that you interview the same people that you're wanting to work with, just like you would get interviewed for a job, is kind of how I would want to say it. You ask good questions, and you'll end up finding a good team to surround yourself with. What else do we have?
Yep, I'd say so.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if someone wants to do this on their own, like, you know, I think, you know, Chris and Todd they provide so much value, and but like if I was to have multiple properties, I mean, I think one is that I'm doing it, but you know, I think the real estate background, and we've done this before. We've owned rental properties before years ago, but somebody who doesn't have the knowledge needs to equip them with some landlord tenant law if they're going to do this on their own, because you don't want to be going out there willy nilly, because those laws have changed, and it's changing all the time, which is why it's great to work with a company, because you guys are licensed and bonded, so you get the communication when things change. But if you were to do it on your own, like, you have to talk to somebody about getting background checks and where do you go, the lease and the contractors. You have to, you know, and real estate agents should have access to some of those things, you know, but you have to get your own contractor. So you just have to build a team, right? Like, definitely you need to use a realtor though. Like that's step one. Step two is get a property management company and get a lender to get yourself. But yeah, people can do this on their own, you know, but I do recommend using people like Chris and Todd who've got the wealth of knowledge.
Thank you, Emily. We really do appreciate that. Yeah, there's places that you can research the material, you can research the laws, but finding people to really help you understand how to apply them is extremely important. And getting leases that are unique and addendums that are unique to your property and your situation.
Oh yeah, you guys made a special thing for me in my addendum that I was like, see you guys, okay. I think I was an easy client, but you know, I was like, well, I want to make sure on this, you know. So so on this and some other tips and tricks that they have come to realize and are sharing with us is other things to minimize risk. But you guys kind of touched on this. actually, we kind of touched on this already. Yeah.
A little bit.
Is there anything else you want to add to this?
Yeah, so I guess the types of properties that we would suggest, and this is like a conversation that happens with almost every investor that comes our way, is what is the type of property that is going to make us the most money? What location? What should we invest in? What should we not invest in? And I would say the number one thing to avoid is high crime rates. And I'm sorry, this may not go exactly with your slide here, Emily, but location is the biggest thing, because you want to watch out for high crime rates, because high crime rates lead to issues, a different tenant base, low like school scores, and obviously things have changed a little bit with the scoring of schools, but this is something that I would say helps people choose a high risk property and a low risk property. So high risk, I would say, are people that are going to be moving constantly. And those are kind of people who live in smaller apartments. As you can imagine, smaller apartments, studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, those are people who don't necessarily have children. They don't have families. A lot of times families are going to, and I know that this is kind of saying things kind of off record, I guess, or saying things in a different way, but a lot of times you're able to attract families, or how do I say that in the right way?
Attract people that want to stay, want to maybe, are committing to an area, maybe
yes, like longer term leases.
Yeah.
So I would suggest 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, studios, and 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. We see people that really are in a phase of their life where they come and go, or they only want a 12-month lease. It doesn't really attract a long-term tenant. So I would say risk-wise, go for a 3 bedroom and up. 3 bedroom, 2 bath, preferably. But even 3 bedroom, 1 bath, you could get away with a family that would be super happy with that.
Yeah, and as somebody, if you're going to go out and do this, you want to start building your real estate portfolio, it is totally it's fine for you to decide, hey, I want to have, a long-term tenant. So it would make more sense for you to look for those kinds of properties. Or, if you want to like be downtown and do like a duplex thing, or, multi-unit, then doing something that has more use 1 bedroom where you're, there's more rooms, so maybe less vacancy, vacancy, but it won't hit your bottom line as much. All of these have pros and cons to them, right? Like I know people who have like nine plexes, and they've had them for 20 years, because when one goes down, it's like 1 out of 9, they're still totally fine, or if you have a single unit, one person, they don't pay rent, or you're in between, it's like, it's heavy hit. You're like, oh, a couple grand. Yep. Or if you do look at those plexes, I'm just saying, as an outsider, like I can see where somebody would say, no, I'm okay with that,
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree. There's definitely no reason to avoid a studio 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. You just need to recognize that you're going into it with a different risk profile. Where where you have a higher bedroom and bathroom count, you're going to have more likely than not a longer term tenant. So you're going to have, at least with us when signing 2-year leases, you'll have less turnovers. And so if you're only turning over the property once every 2 years, you're spending half as much energy and time.
That's true.
And money, more importantly, turning over the unit. Whereas if you have somebody in a 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom where they're renewing every 2 years and staying there because my kids are in the school system and I want my kids to stay here. And they usually have better jobs if they're affording a higher rental rate, willing to stay there because they have a good job already. Whereas the 1 and 2 bedrooms, you usually have people who are single or in a couple relationship and they break up and they move out, or they get a better job and they move, or roommates. Yep, one roommate moves out. One.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah.
Less predictable.
Yeah. Oh shoot, let me go back. Okay. oh gosh. Okay, so let's say you've made your criteria. You say this is what I want. Okay, and then you've got your team in place. Okay, how are you going to buy it? And we kind of broke this up between two things. Like if you're going to buy a home like Chris and Todd did, or they like bought it and then as owner occupied, or there's non-owner occupied financing. So we kind of broke the two slides out. So Todd's going to talk about owner occupied financing and some cool things to do there.
Yes, there's everything changes as far as owner occupied, down payment requirements, loan programs. So this is where having a really good loan officer or mortgage broker is extremely critical in helping you identify what would be the best loan program for you if you're going to be purchasing a house to move into and live in yourself. There are programs for 0% down payment assistance. Unfortunately, not anymore, where you just get free money. When I bought my first house in 2008 and in the early part 2009, 2007, they were giving away free money for down payments. That I have not found exists anymore.
Yeah.
So to get 0%, short version of the story is they basically roll it into your loan. So all of what you would pay for loan costs, they just add it on top of your mortgage payment. Usually there's a set interest rate and time period on it. And so 3%, 3.5%, those are FHA loans. Those come with private mortgage insurance.
It's permanent.
Which currently with FHA is now forever. It used to be only until 79%. Yeah, and Travis and Emily might know even more about that than I do right now.
I was gonna say the 3%, actually there's a conventional 3% down option. And the 3.5 is FHA. A 5%, you could do either one too. But you can, with a 5% conventional option, which as an owner occupied, again, Ashley, this would probably be a good fit for you. I don't think David, we helped buy David and Marion's house. I don't think they're going to go anywhere soon, but the 5%, I love the option for the 5% conventional because you can buy it and then buy out private mortgage insurance. There's a couple lenders that we like to use who, if you're going to be there long term or like own it, it makes sense. But you can buy out mortgage insurance for 2% more. So it's like buying 7% down. And it may make sense or may not make sense, but I'm just going to put that out there. Okay.
No, that's extremely helpful because I would say we bought our first 2 houses without knowing that buying the PMI policy up front was even possible. And so that was a learning lesson about finding the right lender to work with and the right person who's going to watch your back.
Yeah, for some reason, there's a couple lenders out there who don't like to do that. I don't know if there's like, it almost seems like, I don't know they wouldn't make as much money on it, but a lot of them say, oh, well, yeah, you don't need to buy the mortgage insurance out because you can just refinance in a couple years, which,
Yeah.
That's another cost. That gets the business on that again. So whatever.
Yep.
So,
Sorry. Go ahead, David.
Go ahead, David.
no problem. But if you put down, isn't it 20% down? Then you don't need PMI, right? If you put 20.
We're going to get to that. Yeah. The next slide.
25.
Oh, the next slide. Look at that. I already saw your next slide.
Yes, correct, David. Yep, absolutely. And that's where I always run the numbers. And so that's where it's good to have somebody who's willing to help you out run that. More often than not, when you buy off the PMI, it pays for itself in what you were not paying in private mortgage insurance every month within 3 to 5 years. And that's the same type of thing for buying down the interest rate. If you intend on staying in the home for a long period of time, it's usually 5 to 7 years and buying down the interest rate. Obviously, it changes as the base interest rate changes and how much points you pay, which changes all the time too. So yeah, getting into an owner-occupied home at any one of these down payment options gets you into that first step towards home ownership. And then if you choose to do it the way that we did it, if you even have that option available, you live in it for a year, saying that the market's stabilized. And so as Charissa mentioned earlier, our requirement was if we buy an owner-occupied house, it's going to be in a great location with a great option for tenant base. And we're going to plan that in a year, roughly, we could rent this out for our criteria was $300 a month cash flow. So that when that 1 year mark came, we could purchase another owner occupied house for 5% and not have a rental in one house, and just do that as often as we can. Obviously it requires 5% down payment, which for an average size, $400,000 house is not a small chunk of change. So it was helpful that both of us were working.
That's also
Yeah.
not easy. Moving every year.
Moving every year is definitely not easy either.
Yeah, I know. You guys are so rock stars for doing that. Oh my gosh. And then the other thing on here is room renting. Call it like house hacking, or you could buy a house and then you rent out if like a 4-bedroom home and you live in 1 bedroom, then you rent out the others. That is, I am beyond the years of having a roommates, but not many property management companies will manage that because they've tried it or talked about it. And what do you guys think? That's not recommended.
It is a big headache.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
We're going to be just managing your own house with a couple of tenants. I'm sure, we can send a roommate agreement, but ultimately it's usually people that are renting a room are people that are coming and going and coming and going and coming and going. Especially if you have no way to screen them, that can be kind of fishy. And even just having people move in that, are just kind of in a temporary position to just rent a room, all the roommates can change and the roommates cannot be happy with each other. It can be a total nightmare. And we learned this by managing properties in college areas like Seattle U and UW, where we tried that out and it was just a nightmare. So
Yeah.
I suggest that.
I was thinking if somebody had a kid, and they were going to help buy the kid the first house, and like the kid
that too.
went to college at UW or Seattle U, like maybe the kid could learn how to start managing the property. It would be on them to manage themselves, but like if you're 20 and you're already done, it might be something to consider for somebody who, or maybe you're 50, and you're single and you're like, I'm fine with having roommates, I'm okay with that now because I'm single and 50 or whatever, I would just be in the right frame, season of life to deal with that. And I've seen families do that with rooms, and it is not good for the family unit. I've seen it. The other strategy is non-owner occupied. Okay, Todd, talk about this and how are we going to save up the 25%? Because that's a lot of money.
Yeah, there are some lenders who will do it with 20% down. Some lenders want 25% down. Everybody's a little bit different, and it depends on what loan programs they offer. So it does change. We got in on a loan program that I don't think exists anymore because it was a home path loan program that allowed 15% down. So it all just depends on timing of the market and what it is the government's trying to encourage. But currently 20 to 25% is pretty much what we're stuck with. And that's for an investment property purchase. Doesn't matter if it's a single family or up to 4 units. Once you get into 5 units or more, then it's technically a commercial type property. And those are extremely expensive loans to do. We currently personally don't have any commercial loans just because they are expensive. The interest rates are high, down payments are low. There's a lot of different requirements. So we've done conventional financing so far.
David's got a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So Todd, on commercial properties, just 5 or more units, does that have PMI in it as well?
I would say I don't have that answer offhand, David, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The only one that I looked into didn't charge PMI, but that was because the loan balance to the value of the property was less than 80%.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they require cash flow coverage, 125% normally at a minimum, which means that whatever the debt service is, you have to cash flow obviously 25% more than that every month. So another strategy to buying properties is doing a cash out refinance. And I would say, hands down, if this is a strategy that you choose to do, an owner occupied cash out refinance is always going to give you better interest rate, better terms for the exact same process. So if you're going to buy an investment property or move out of a home, if the market's gone up enough and you need to use that money and it makes sense to refinance, I'll caveat everything with that because it is expensive. Refinancing costs almost as much as buying a home as far as your closing costs go. And so that's why it's important to use the right lender, because if you purchase a house and then refinance it in 2 years, you're not quite getting your money's worth. Not necessarily, but usually not. HELOC.
I was gonna say, on the commercial thing, I do know that usually the commercial loans are not fixed, David. They're variable normally, and they're variable 10-year. And so you have like it's like fixed for 10 years, but then it can adjust, and you don't find fixed 30 years. Rarely. It's what my experience has been. It's like variable. You can get like a 10 or 15-year fix, and then after that, it can fluctuate. So you have to refinance to get the next fix, and so you don't know what the rate's going to be like in 10 years. And so, but hopefully, 10 years that all the rents have gone up anyways, a little bit. So that's the only thing with, it's a big hesitation to do.
It is.
But like cash out refi would make sense if you were, again, owner occupied and you could do that. If but like if you were already 10 years into your mortgage, you don't really want to do a cash out refi to go buy something, right?
I would tend to agree. It really depends on everyone. When you're getting into what should I or what shouldn't I do, or what's good, what's bad, it really depends on everyone's situation. If you bought a property, I would say before the markets collapsed, everybody would say that interest rates go up and down and up and down. So you could buy with a high interest rate, and refinancing makes sense because it saves you money.
Yeah.
So sometimes it makes sense to refinance just to get the lower rate, even if you don't pull out money. And sometimes it makes sense to refinance and pull out money because your property's gone up in 5 years, and you can use that equity to then purchase another property. And the interest rate stays about the same. So it is very circumstantial.
Yeah, there's no real straightforward answer for that one, is there?
It's hard. That's why.
The HELOC's kind of similar to that too, pulling the money out.
They are.
You don't deal with the refi, you just deal with the repayment terms on the HELOC, which you guys probably know better than me, but I've seen repayment terms at 10 years for HELOCs, but I know that you can renew them. Do you guys have personal experience with going beyond that at all, or?
I haven't. We have not personally done a HELOC yet. It didn't make sense because they're usually higher interest rates than what you can get for refinancing or just straight up purchasing. But if I would say if you're stuck for cash and you don't want to refinance to reset your mortgage payments, doing a HELOC, if the interest rate makes sense, it is a really good option because, like you said, it's fixed for a certain period of time that you can draw on it. And then after that period, after 10 years, it's locked and you have a repayment plan on it. And so that could also be a good option. There are variable HELOC interest rates too, but sometimes it makes sense.
Okay, the last 3 items.
Yeah, there are self-directed IRAs, so you can put in, retirement. You can put money away for retirement, so to speak, into your investment account, and you can use those funds to purchase real estate. We currently don't have those set up. Not because we don't know if they're worthwhile or not. It's just I have not looked into them personally, so I can't really speak to the quality of that. But I would say they exist for a reason.
I have set one up before. I did not use it, but I did set one up. But yeah, the funds do come out. It's like your IRA. So you take the money, the down payment on a house. So any passive income made on that comes back to the IRA to that fund. So it would be building your retirement another way, but I don't know, like repairs. I don't know if you have repairs happen or maintenance. I don't know about that one. So I haven't looked into it in a while.
I would agree. Those details I don't know just because I haven't looked at that. But we personally have not put into a retirement account. So Some people would say we're putting all of our eggs in one basket, but I would say real estate's been very, very steady. Although we've been investing in a short period of time personally, has only continued to go up for us substantially over the last 7 years. So I would say, whereas people are putting their investments, their retirement into the stock market, I'm not an expert in stocks, so that to me is a very big risk. So I would see that as a risky one.
When I bought my last house in 2008, the month after I bought it, the market crashed, and then I was negative $100,000 on my investment. But I said, whatever. I make my payments, and like now I'm, I had $200,000 in equity in it, so it took a little bit longer to get to that point. But at the same time, the message here is to buy and hold. And if you buy and hold, real estate doesn't fail you.
Almost always goes up. Correct.
Unless the city wants to come take it or something, and you buy next to like a road or a highway. So don't do that.
You never know what the future may hold, but yes, yeah.
Hey, you can get some good buyout.
Sometimes.
Oh yeah, maybe so. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna
yeah.
okay. What's the difference between the portfolio and private?
Yeah, so portfolio loans are loans where you receive money from a bank. So it's very similar to going through conventional financing. However, it's the bank themselves loaning you their money and not then selling that loan to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which is what conventional lending is. And so portfolio loans, because it's the bank's money, they can set lower criteria thresholds that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac wouldn't allow. So either higher debt to income ratios or lower credit score, but you definitely pay for those. Portfolio loans are always 2 to 3% higher at a minimum, more often than not. They charge more points to do the loan and fund the loan. And sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. That's all I can say. For us personally, it has not made sense yet because we qualify for conventional financing. So it makes sense to do that. And then private loans is just getting money from someone else. And so they obviously can set whatever criteria they want, but it's usually significantly more expensive interest rate wise as well.
Okay, we're gonna go through a quick exam. We need to extend our Zoom call here because it is not done yet and we are set. So Jackie is working on it. Here's an example. We're gonna go through and give a whole spreadsheet of a breakdown of how to analyze rental properties. Okay, so I've got, this is the house. It's probably gonna, oh, here it is. Okay, cool. So this is a house. It's in Tacoma, kind of Parkland area. And it's $335 price. It is a 3-bed home, 1.5 bath, 2,020 square feet. And, okay, decent lot. And I do want to say, it is an old house, 1962. Okay, they refinished the garage and made it living quarters. This home is currently rented for $2,000 a month right now, which is why I'm using it. Makes math easy and simple. But here's the house, and I mean, something you look for, when you're looking at properties, something we always look for is like, how can I add value? When you buy a rental property, you don't want to be like, I mean, you can say, oh, here's a rehab, but when you buy something, you're going to want to start making money on it right away. So buying a rehab probably doesn't make the most sense, but like being able to add update finishes, and kind of increase the attractiveness of it for other tenants is important. And Chris and Todd, they've analyzed a couple. I mean, we do this all the time in our jobs, 100%. And then Chris and Todd do it all the time in the rental side of it too. There's just certain things you can do, like this flooring. What the heck is this flooring? I see bubbles, and I don't know if this is tile, whatever that is. Like that can get fixed, But here's the house. It's a good sized family room setting. Oh, and we lost some pictures here. I think because my MLS is expired, so I'm not gonna go into too much. But anyways, this is rented for $2,000 a month. I'm gonna throw these numbers into an Excel spreadsheet. Jackie, how are we coming along with extending this here? Okay, all right, good. Let me throw the numbers in here. So here is, I'm just gonna do this real quick here. Okay, So when I first ran this, like just a couple days ago, it was actually 350, and they just lowered the price, I think. So why would I put in 350? I don't think I would have done that if it was not 350. So make sure that these numbers are going to be better. But so you put in this spreadsheet. By the way, I have copies of the other spreadsheet I showed where you can put in other scenarios of houses. And this is not my spreadsheet, but I'm sure the person who made the spreadsheet would be willing to share the spreadsheet. Okay, so this right here is a cost of home. You put the number in here, and then the cash up front is depending on the down payment. So let's pretend this is a non-owner occupied purchase and you put 25% down. I do know of programs that are 20% down, like Todd said, and I do know of them too personally. They're just not every lender. So you put that down, it's $87,000 that you're going to need to take out of something or save some account. Okay, let's just say you have that money. Let's say the interest rate is 3% right now. You can buy the rate down to 3%. And that is happening right now easily. But it is, you know, not with every lender, and I don't know what your credit is, right? So that is an option. And then assumed property appreciation is at 2%. Todd, this is property, not rental appreciation. Right? This is the property appreciation.
Correct. Yep.
Which is super conservative.
It is extremely conservative. And that way, that's just kind of a base value just to say, guaranteed it's going to go up 2%. Because like you said, on average, it's 4%. So if a property makes sense when you're doing something conservative, then you know what the actual market average is, you're going to be doing really well.
Okay. So we just are going to, so just follow me along here. Right here, I put in the loan amount, the interest rate, and it calculated this a dollar amount in here. And I then added the insurance and the taxes by looking at the property, which you can do over here. You know, it does tell you, oh yeah, here's the monthly rent right here. And the annual taxes are right here. Okay, so you use that, and then there's lots of mortgage calculators online that you can use to throw base numbers in, and a lot of apps have it as well. I'm pretty sure our app has it as well. Okay, so you threw that in, and then if you have a management fee, typically you're going to be looking at 10% to have somebody manage it for you. So I threw that dollar amount in there, and the monthly, this is profit is $300 a month. So they had a minimum of 300. They're going to go buy this tomorrow. Probably not. But see, this is a minimum of 300. I would consider this myself. You know, if my property criteria was, you know, okay with something like this. Maybe not everybody's okay with an older home because of other things, you know. But okay, that's one scenario. The other scenario is, let's say, well, this is 4% interest rate. Okay. So, and let's say I'm doing this owner occupied. So I'm only going to put down 5% down. So that's this scenario 2 right here is this scenario. So it's 4% and I'm doing owner occupied. And so that takes you to this scenario right here. Okay. So you're going to, again, if you're going to buy it for yourself, you're not going to rent it the first year, but let's say you'd be negative $177. Now, some people decide, you know, that's fine because they know that they're probably going to add value to this house in some shape or form. Maybe a paint job, maybe doing something, right, Charissa and Todd? Like, I mean, you guys are buying houses. And when I bought my house, I couldn't rent it out and make money. But if you live in the home for a year or two, and then you do some fixes to it, you want to make sure that this cash flow piece is not really far off so that you could bring it tighter and maybe make some money, right?
Yeah, when you're looking at buying a house to live in that you plan on renting, or buying a house that you plan on renting, you want to make sure that the market rent is close to zero or positive as possible. And if it isn't, then like you suggested, you want to be able to add value, because if you can't add value to increase the rent, then it's just going to take time for the market rent to go up high enough to where you either break even or start to make money. So not being able to add value in a house that you're not going to make money on is just going to take lots of years for the rental market to overcome that depending on location.
Yeah, and so if I play with these even numbers here a little bit, let's just say like you bought this at 3%, you bought it down. Now you're at $7. But like you said, you add a couple things, and I'm gonna show you the other scenario too on the sheet 1 or whatever, sheet 2. If you put the rent in here, 2,000 at rent raise, and this is conservative. Is this 2% too? Do you guys say 2% for this too, the rental raise? Or just $25?
I don't know. Would $25 every year for a rent increase be a decent amount? I mean, it's really
Depends. Okay.
specific.
Yeah, it's very area specific. Sometimes we have done like an increase, especially in Seattle or Bellevue or Redmond, Kirkland, Issaquah, like Sammamish. The areas up north, we can justify, or even Renton sometimes, we can justify, or Newcastle, we can justify like $100 per month increase per year.
Okay. So let's just be conservative here. And at rent raise, $25 a year, and just, this did not take it down all the way. The Excel spreadsheet did. Hold on. I gotta look at this. What's the,
I would usually say at minimum, it would be a $50 increase.
So yeah, I don't know, for some reason that, I must have messed with the spreadsheet, guys, and it's not doing that. Okay, well, we know it would be.
Oh, don't fret. We can.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I don't know what I'm doing. You guys would just see that. I mean, I highly doubt it'd be like this the whole time. At some point, you're gonna probably go up $100. You know what I mean?
Yep. I would actually say that's another question that owners ask frequently, especially if they're doing long-term holds, is what do you see the increase every single year? And for $25, what is that, $300 a year? Yeah, it's really not worth losing a good tenant over. So it's either going to be like 50 or 100 per month or more. So
Okay. Yeah,
that's more realistic, I'd say.
So yeah, the cash flow on just one here, it would be 3,600 for the first year. Okay, I'm doing this scenario on non-owner occupied purchase, and then the other things to look at too, because when you buy something, you can look at a capital appreciation. There's so many ways. Some people just buy. I know some people just buy stuff for capital appreciation alone and doesn't care if it's negative cash flow for a couple $100 a month for a couple years, because they know eventually it'll turn around. I mean, we don't really want to recommend that to the novice, the first time doing, people have different reasons. Like maybe they need the write-offs for the taxes, which there are people out there that do need that. So the property value at just 2%, this theoretical dollar gain scenario 1 or scenario 2, I don't know why are they different? Oh, because of the debt, how much you put down.
Yep, down payment and then the cash flow. Yep.
So in 7 years, you're at $400,000. So you've made $77,000. So when people talk about buying a house every 5 years, some people can't save the money to do that. I mean, this is one way potentially you could do that. Now, can you refinance 100% of value? Probably not. But these are really conservative numbers here. Likely the value is higher. So most times when you own something, or if you're a landlord and you want to refi your rental, it's like 65 to 75% loan to value, right? There were some that were 80% at a time, but
yeah, very, very rarely. Usually the like you said, it's usually between 50 to 70% loan to value.
yeah,
Pretty low for investment properties. That's why I recommending always doing refinance. Yeah.
And then usually when you take that cash out, you can then your mortgage debt will go up. Your mortgage debt will go up. But the idea would be, right, Todd, a strategy would be to buy one and then maybe do the refi, cash out refi. If you can't save the money, do the one refi poll, and it will reset the clock. Maybe if you can do like a 15 or 20 year and then buy the other home, and and then don't mess with that mortgage again, right? But you could stair step it with the houses by using the equity. It is possible to do the cash out refi. You would, the down play would be you would start the 30-year clock over, but when you do refi, you could consider doing like a 20-year option if your cash flow allows it. Sorry, that was kind of deep. Okay, any questions? Ann, David, Jackie, Ashley, on this particular spreadsheet here?
No, it's good.
Yeah, and so right here, sheet 2, I don't know what I did wrong here. That clearly I played with the Excel. This number should add the expenses of this, and then it will give you the cash flow from year 1 to 7, and you'll see it grow. So anyways, you can see the cash flow on this scenario, which is not accurate. It was 1,200 on year 1 and then to 1,600. Again, this is not right because the expenses are not even this. So the expenses are going to be like 1,400 and like, let's just say here. Okay, yeah, the cash flow would be, it's not, yeah, I looked at this before. Okay, that actually seems more accurate. The cash flow would be somewhere around here a month. This is just talking about I'm not sure. Okay, that one's, sorry, that one did not get corrected. Okay, no questions on this spreadsheet. Can we move on? Okay.
Oh, it looks good.
Yeah, I love this one because you can play with the scenarios. And one of the things that, when you work with a professional, you'd be like, well, actually, if you change up the carpet, for, 1,600, our current, these are under rented right now. You could actually get, we think you could get, $2,050 a month, and then you just can say, okay, that's kind of the range you're looking at. So it's fun to play with. And then, but the interest rate is key, because if that interest rate is 3.5%, it changes your cash flow, so everything is it's all moving all the time. But it's important to get a spreadsheet and run the numbers on these things, right? Over and over and over and over until you feel very comfortable about making the move. And the only way to do that is to be non-emotional and look at the numbers, right, Todd and Charissa?
That's
Yep.
true. Yep.
Okay, and so when you get something and you're trying to determine the rent, which is a headache for even me as a realtor, I can look on the MLS, but there's like 3 past rented, maybe there's a few actives on rentals, and it's hard to determine. I don't have a lot of quantity, so I don't feel like there's a lot of quantity to give me a quality answer. So Chris and Todd feel it's complicated too, but they have cool things that we don't have.
Yeah, it's kind of like a subscription to the MLS. And when you're pulling sales comps, you have access to all of the sales data. And this is kind of like the #1 place that everybody posts everything. With rentals, things are posted all over the place. And it really is, there's like a variety of what companies and what apps and what websites that people use just to post their listing these days. If they're a private owner, if they're a company, and if they're a larger or medium company, or if they're a small company, are they paying for a software that puts all of the ads on different, like I guess, how do I say that?
This is like one of the last slides, just so you everybody knows, like we're basically done after this. So just,
yeah, I think this is like the last.
We're 8:40, so we're basically wrapping up here.
Yep. So I think the software that we use is probably the #1 thing, and it's kind of hard for individual people to try to figure out how much things should rent for. You have to visit a bunch of websites and Google like how much is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, renting for in this particular zip code. And then you have to look at all the finishes and all of the different properties around. So something that we kind of have that is something that we have in our wheelhouse is that we're able to present something that people can count on, because we have like a software that does a lot of the work for us.
You have magic, basically. I'll just say that. You just have magic.
Yeah, I didn't know the best way to.
It's magic. No, it's like you have a cool system that we don't have. And that's why it's that is another really good selling point to why you need to use property management company to do this, because determining rents is really hard when you are not in it and they're in it. So we're basically done. I did want to just have Chris and Todd tell us quickly what their services are, and kind of what you guys do charge. So people are talking about using you if you want to do leasing and property management, what can they expect?
So we are a full service property management company. You can choose to do leasing and property management with us, which is majority of our clients, or you can have us just do leasing and then manage it yourselves, and we will always be available for you. Or you can do just management and do your own leasing. So it's very open to what your options are with us. As far as the leasing side, we obviously do market analysis. We figure out how much your property should be renting for. Are there several things that need to be updated, or are there ways that we can add value to the property? We help you with that. And if there's upgrades, we have a team of maintenance guys that can help with any upgrades that need to happen. And then as far as leasing, we do a lot of things that are unusual. We have a lot of we don't like take pictures with our iPhones or whatever. We have like professional photography, and we do drone shots. We do virtual tours, which a lot of property management companies don't do. And then put your property on the market. Like I said, we use a software called AppFolio, and that gets it on like 50 different websites, and we pay for that software to have like top search engine optimization. So all of your ads are to everyone all the time. Even if they're searching for like a 4-bedroom, they're going to see your 3-bedroom, because that's something that's super cool with our software, that we definitely put keywords in and all of that. So advertising, marketing, and then as far as tenant screening, we already talked about that. So we do top notch on that, and then we sign them on a strict lease. And then as far as management, we take care of everything from emergency calls and forcing the leasing agreement, and then everything that's maintenance related. We get permission from the owners before we send somebody there. We do not charge a margin on top of our maintenance. So, there's no charge to show up. We just charge exactly what they charge us, and no margin on top of labor or materials. But the biggest thing that I can say is that we guarantee 0% vacancy, and we use a very, very particular strategy to do that. And we are the only company in Washington state that guarantees 0% vacancy. And, it's pretty much, we move somebody out. We pre-lease several months in advance. We move somebody out the very last day of the month, which we babysit that whole process. That's a whole process in itself. And then we move somebody in the very next day after we do a 24-hour turnover. And that's something that we specialize in, I'd say. So yeah, it's a guarantee that owners really come to us for, and they stay with our company because we're the only people that provide that. So yeah.
Which again is just crazy, but you do it. It's awesome. And your leasing fees are equal to what?
1 month's rent.
Yeah.
Yep. And then our management is 10% per month.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. David's still on, but he walked away. But so, okay. Anybody have any other question? I mean, we're done. Thank you for your time. for listening. And I hope that we did answer the questions. I'm looking at the list and I think we answered everybody's questions that they had some. Is there anybody that needs to clarify, ask additional questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and holler.
It was very well done, Emily.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of my questions got answered.
Good.
Wonderful.
And I admire anybody that does property management. I couldn't do it.
Thank you. It is definitely tough at times.
Yeah, my brothers are very wealthy through doing it. And I got to help clean up some of their rental properties. No, thank you.
There are some horror stories. It sounds like you've
Oh,
them.
Oh boy.
I could not believe people could be so filthy.
It can be surprising sometimes, but thankfully that's a rarity.
Yeah.
Charissa and I put this together actually today.
Yeah, like the last 24 hours.
We were working on it for a couple days, but we finalized it obviously today. So we wanted to cover a lot of things, and I think we could have delved deep into a lot of different areas, but I didn't want to go too crazy with it. So we tried to just touch on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So very well done.
Jackie, Ashley, any questions from you ladies?
No,
Oh, no.
I'm good.
Are you ready to buy your first place?
Well, I've already purchased before, but
The second
we're
place.
ready to buy again.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. I'm excited for when that.
Yeah,
When you put Rick's down over here.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Chris and Todd's information is right there on the screen. So, obviously you guys can all ask me and I always refer to them anyways. So appreciate your time. We're going to do this again. I love talking about this. I love having Chris and Todd on here, and I want to do this again next month. I think December is kind of tough time right now. We had so many people that wanted to do this and said, let me know when you guys talk about this. And I think we're going to probably repeat this next month because I think this is just kind of a tough time in December to sit in front of the screen for this long when you have other obligations in this month. So, okay, thank you all. You can sign off now.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. Guys.
Thanks, guys. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
That worked out well. What do you think?
I think so too.
We actually did we went a little over, but not horribly for how long we talked about stuff.
Right. No, we did really good. Yeah, we'll give you a ring back here in just a little bit.
Okay. I'm eating because I'm so hungry.